Hi everyone, welcome to Unbox Your Lunchbox, your digital lunchtime friend, making lunchbox planning easier for parents and for caregivers. I'm the person and the idea behind the app. I thought the best instructional video would be one done candidly off my phone as a screen recording and from a user perspective. I'm going to urge you to watch this video from start to end, as it's going to give you a better understanding of the thinking behind these features and how you can better customize it to make the best out of your app. So without further ado, let's start up with the technical bits. That is the sign up form. You're going to click on sign up and I'm going to fill this out. When it comes to the birth date, the year is by default going to be set to the current year. So you're going to have to change the year first, as the dial is not going to move to a month that hasn't passed in the year just yet. So start with the year first and then work backwards. For the grocery day, I'm going to select Monday. The intention behind this feature is at the end of the setup process, so after you've generated lunch boxes for the week, the app is going to make a grocery list for you depending on what ingredients go into those meals, but we'll get into the nitty-gritty of that. What selecting this day does is it ensures that your grocery list clears before the next shopping day if you haven't already done that. We're now going to create a profile for our kids. So if your children don't have different food aversions or different food preferences, you can just create a single profile and call it children with some bogus birth date, just to allow you to not have to go through the complexities of individual profiles if there's no need for it. As you move on to the allergy bit, the importance of this is if you're leaving your children to a caregiver who is responsible for their lunches, they are aware of what food allergies your children have, so that they're not creating lunch boxes or they're not even feeding your kids food during the day that may potentially be harmful for them. So Olivia has no food allergies. For now, I'm not going to generalize children. I'm going to create an individual lunchbox for each one of them so you have an idea of how the app works. Now we get to the foundational aspect of the app. If you see these icons at the bottom, which is mains, fruits, veggies, dairy, fats or proteins, and snacks, this is the lunchbox formula that we reference in the app, but in icon form. What we have done is we have digitized a lunchbox formula that makes planning easier for moms by ensuring that you get a portion of food that meets all of your children's dietary requirements. So here they get their 2 of 5 a day, as well as a healthy portion of a dairy, a fat, or a protein, as you know, is very important for their development as well. A treat, because every child loves a treat, and that can be healthy, that can be sugary, it can be whatever it is that you want to add to their lunch boxes to make it extra special and to just fill it out. And this is your main meal. So we're going to work through all of the categories. I'm going to explain how to set up each one, and again, how you can customize it to your liking and your benefit. We're going to start adding mains. Mains would be the main meal of the lunchbox. It's the most satiating part. It's the croissant, it's the sushi, it's the chicken nuggets, the burger, whatever you're serving in as the main meal. So you're going to click on the plus sign, add your main meal. The main meal's name would be a burger. When you get to the ingredients part, basically what this section does, or what it serves, is for you to break down the burger into all of its individual ingredients, so that when the grocery list is put together for you, you're able to then ensure that you have all of those ingredients either in your pantry or when you go to the stores. So as you approach the week, everything you need is on hand in order to enable you to make these lunch boxes. Now, you don't have to do this. If you want to skip it, you can just say burger and ignore the grocery list altogether. But if you're someone like me who really needs to plan everything to the T so that I'm approaching the week with a lot less frenzy and a lot more confidence, then this really helps me a lot. So I would put my tablespoon of mayo just to ensure that I have that much mayo in my fridge, because that's not always the case. We're always running on empty. I'll do a tablespoon of ketchup, and again, this can be as complex as you want it to be. If you don't want to say the quantity, 1 tablespoon, 1 teaspoon, 3 slices of cucumber, just put mayo, ketchup, or lettuce. And as I've said before, if you don't want to get into the really planny bits, you can just put burger as the recipe name and as a singular ingredient, and you're good to go, and you can ignore all the other features. Let me fill this out. I'm going to do a few main meals, and then I will move through the rest of the app. Once I've added in all of my mains, I'm going to select the ones that will be considered as options for my lunch boxes. The reason why we do this is sometimes if you have a picky eater or a fussy eater, they may decide that they now have a food aversion to hot dogs, in which case you can deselect hot dogs so it's no longer considered an option for the lunchbox without you redoing the entire profile. And then later on in the year, if they decide they no longer have a food aversion, you can come back and select it again. You then have your fruits and vegetables, your dairy, fats, and proteins. For all three of these, I have some pre-entered options for you. If there isn't something on the list that you would like, then you can add some by clicking the plus sign and then entering your fruit's name. You could do the same thing with vegetables. And you can also do the same with dairy, fats, or proteins. And then remember to select it afterwards. For snacks, I added in my own snacks. Yours will be empty as you saw at the beginning. I've now entered this in and completed the profile. And then I've selected the ones that I would consider as options for the lunchbox. Again, if your child has a food aversion to fruit cubes, you can go and deselect it in editing profile. And I will show you that option in a bit. You can then go ahead and save the profile. I went ahead and added a second child, but I didn't go through the complexity of doing all the food groups just for ease of explanation. So with James in his allergies, milk is there. You can see this is what the profile summary looks like. So if you're leaving your children with a caregiver, well, then basically they have a well-rounded idea of the foods that the child likes as well as whatever related allergies there may be. I spoke about editing profile or editing foods. That is, if you click on the edit icon next to the name, you can go and edit your child's profile. Maybe you want to change the photo or the birth date, or maybe you want to group all your children into a singular profile, in which case you can just consider it or name it children and you can delete all the other profiles. You can also go and edit foods. This is where I spoke to you about deselecting or selecting food aversions and then save. Now we can get into the actual generating part of the lunchbox. What Generate Lunchbox does is it takes all of the food groups in its different portions and sections of the lunchbox and it creates lunchbox combinations for you based on the foods that you have selected. For example, if you click on Generate, that would be the middle icon at the bottom, you're going to select the profile for which you're going to be generating lunchboxes for the week. And I've already done, as you see, those blocked out days are days I've already planned lunchboxes for. I'm going to select the 13th, the 14th, the 15th, 16th, and 17th. I'm going to generate lunchboxes for those days. And what that does is, if you go to the calendar, it would then have lunchbox combinations that tells you what you would put in your child's lunchbox for the day. So she would have an apple, beetroot, chicken nuggets with some almonds, and then biltong. I can then generate lunchboxes for James for the same days. I'm going to view calendar, and on the 6th, I've got Olivia's lunchbox. But then I also have, if I swipe to the left, I've got James's lunchbox as well. You can also view it in a week form by clicking on week, and you'd be able to then click on your child's profile icon and you would get their lunchbox combination. This has all been stored for you so you can reference it on that day. So for example, on April the 8th, I can click on April the 8th and that would pull up the lunchbox combination for the day, and I could just put it together after having shopped my groceries for the week. So if you go to grocery list, based on those weeks or that week's lunchboxes, I will then have a grocery list which would pull all the data from those individual ingredients that I entered at the beginning. And as I shop them, I can then cross them out on the app. So I can click or press the tick next to that food and it will basically cross it out for me, so I know what's left to shop for the week, so that I can approach the lunchbox planning week with a little bit more ease and, like I say, a lot less anxiety. So this is the app in real time. I hope this gives you a better understanding of how you can play around with the app, how you can customize it to your liking, how you can generalize or put all children under one profile so you don't have singular profiles, how you can omit the grocery list or use the grocery list. At the end of the day, it can be customizable to every type of caregiver or parent, but I hope you get the the best benefit out of using this app. And I hope that everything I've said is well explained. Thank you so much for your support, and we appreciate any feedback.